Speaker invited the Honorable Sardar Baldev Singh, Minister for Defence, to share his views.
Sir, I beg to move for leave to introduce a bill to provide for the constitution of a territorial army for India. Mr. Speaker, the question is that leave be granted to introduce a bill to provide for the constitution of a territorial army for India. Sir, I move that the bill to provide for the constitution of a territorial army for India be taken into consideration. During the last session of this House, I announced the government's decision to constitute a territorial army for this country. In that statement, I had indicated that the Territorial Force Act of 1920 might not be entirely suitable for the territorial army that we now propose to raise. After careful examination, it has been found necessary to have a new bill altogether. As regards the actual provisions of the bill, I may point out that we have based the bill on general principles. The details are to be worked out in the rules. The rules will make provision for all the details that are necessary for the working of this bill. In view of the experience gained in the past, we have found it unnecessary to make statutory provisions for things for which statutory provision is absolutely unnecessary. As the House will recollect, there was a general desire from every member of this House and also the country in general that we ought to have a territorial army as early as possible. The main purposes for which this territorial army will be used have been indicated in the bill itself. In addition to that, this territorial army will go a long way to meet the general desire amongst our population that military training should be given to everyone of those who wish to have some kind of military training. I indicated previously, although we have limited the size of this territorial army to 1,30,000 as soon as this target is reached, and if there is a general desire that this number should be increased, well, that will certainly be considered by government. There is absolutely no limit. It is our intention to raise the maximum number of units in the urban areas as well as in the rural areas. With these observations, I commend my motion for the acceptance of the House. Mr. Speaker, motion moved that the bill to provide for the constitution of a territorial army for India be taken into consideration.
Then the Speaker invited Shri S.K. Patil to share his views.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to heartily welcome this very important measure. In my view, it opens a new and important era in the defense resources of our country. As a statement of objects and reasons have very clearly pointed out, this territorial army is intended to be a second line and another source of reinforcement of our regular army. We have realized rather painfully during these days how important the existence of such an army is to India in the present context. Another thing which is also very important is that this army is intended to assist the internal defense duties. We have been going through very hectic times during the last 12 months, and every step we found that it was necessary that our internal defense duties were carried on not by regular army but by some such unit which we are contemplating to create under this measure. May I appeal to Honorable Minister in all humility that he should take stock of the situation in which this country is placed. Exposed as we are to external danger, also exposed as we are to internal insecurity, and therefore there is a necessity that we must have at least 1 million of such army. The Honorable Minister should take every step in his power to see that India builds up one of the strongest defenses in the world, not only for defending its borders from foreign aggression, but also for keeping internal security, which is so very necessary for its peace, progress and prosperity. Since we are going to raise a territorial army, I beg of the Minister to see that this army is not absolutely deprived of its original roots in the people. By raising this territorial army force in the country, we are giving our people a slogan of survival. This is a slogan which will appeal to the country, and therefore I welcome this measure. Thank you, sir.
Then the speaker invited Begum Aizaz Rasool to share her views.
Sir, I welcome the bill and congratulate the Honourable Defence Minister for bringing forward such a legislation. There is no doubt that this new and important measure will open a new era in the military position of our country, and I am glad that an opportunity is being given for infusing military education. Sir, a very pertinent question that was put forward by the Honourable Pandit Khusru was regarding the position of women in the defence sector. The last war has amply proved that women can play a very important role in this line. I hope that the Honourable Minister, when making out the plan for this training, will keep in mind the fact that women should also be given an opportunity of training themselves for the defence of their country. We hope that ways and means will be devised and opportunities will be given to women to take up training in order to make themselves more useful in the territorial army.
इसके बाद स्पीकर ने सेठ गोविंद दास को आमंत्रित किया। मैं माननीय रक्षा मंत्री जी को इस पर बधाई देना चाहता हूं कि वे इस प्रकार का बिल हमारे सामने लाए। यद्यपि यह बिल अभी बहुत थोड़े दायरे में हमारे सामने आया है, जैसा कि अभी मेरे पहले वक्ता ने कहा, इसका प्रांतों में विस्तार होना चाहिए। मैं आशा करता हूं कि यह केवल आरंभ मात्र है और आगे चलकर यह काम बहुत बढ़ाया जाएगा। मैं इसका स्वागत और समर्थन करता हूं।
Then the speaker invited Shri H.V. Kamath to share his views.
Then, sir, as I have said, the crowd has got to be turned into a disciplined unit. This territorial army will, in time, grow into a very big force which will assist, as is stated in the statement of objects and reasons, the regular force in the event of a national emergency. Sir, I am not a Jeremiah. I do not want to be a Cassandra, nor do I want to be a pessimistic or gloomy prophet. I feel from how events are moving in India, events at home and abroad, that perhaps the day is not far off when we may have to take up arms. I hope some of us in this house will join the territorial army and set an example to other people in this country.
Then the speaker invited the Honourable Sardar Baldev Singh, Minister for Defence, to share his views.
It may not be necessary, and as I have earlier pointed out in my speech when introducing the bill, I have tried to avoid all kind of complications. It is a bill which is based on very broad basis, and as there is no provision for the employment of women in the Indian Army Act itself, they have been left out. But as I have said, it is not our intention to leave them out altogether. In fact, I very much welcome the desire of this House that the women of this country should take an active part in the defence of this country whenever a national emergency arises, regarding taking approval of the House for the rules to be framed. Of course, when the rules are framed, they will be placed on the table of the House.